Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Handpicked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. The Phoenix Suns are now under 500. Sam, how you doing?
Happy New Year! Because many of you will be listening as we turn over to 2025. Hopefully a great year for all of you at home. Great health for everyone. Also, hopefully a better year for, yes, the Phoenix Suns. That's what we're here to talk about today. In the past, Mike, we have done sometimes entire episodes revolving around New Year's resolutions for the Suns.
Yeah.
We decided not to do that this time. I think maybe because it just didn't fit the format of the vibes with how
the way the season's going. Yeah.
New Year's resolutions for the Suns right now is kind of everything.
just be good. Yeah.
Just play decent basketball. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. We got a lot to break down today. A little bit of trade slop, rumors. A little bit of actual transaction reactions, actual stuff that's going on around the league. And then obviously a good amount kind of just touching on, for anyone who hasn't listened, in the past week, what's been going on with the Suns for the past week. Most recently, we're coming off back-to-back, I would say, equally insufferable losses against the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors, both of which were super frustrating for different reasons. But yeah, we'll hit on it all.
Yeah, just an embarrassing last few weeks for the Suns in general. Sort of, I think, kind of saved by the Christmas Day game, where that was probably the game outside of playoff games that more people watched the Suns play than any other game in the last few seasons. Like, that was probably peak. So it's nice for them to win that Christmas Day game. We haven't talked about it on this feed. But they did win that one, but then followed it up with losses to 2 teams that you just really don't want to lose to. And I think in ways that, particularly for the Mavericks, no Luka Doncic, in ways that you really don't. The Suns scored 89 points in that game.
No Luka. Nurkic gets smacked. He leaves the game. Najee Marshall and PJ Washington leave the game. That's a trade you take any day if you're a Suns fan, right? And it's the fact that all of that happens and they still couldn't capitalize on those situations. Really brutal.
And 89 points.
You just
can't get over that.
Well, and I mean, the fascinating thing about the team for the last week, right? How often this season have we talked about they can't guard anyone? They have no defensive effort, no defensive intensity. Their offense is pretty good, but they can't guard anyone. And then these past 3 games, because I'm gonna throw that win against Denver, the second game against Denver, in there too. So they are 1-2 in the past 3 games, but suddenly their offense stinks. And their defense actually is kind of solid. They only gave up 98 points to Dallas. They only gave up 109 points to Golden State. That's like average for the NBA these days. And the only reason they lost that Golden State game is because they got 43 good minutes out of Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. And then the 5 worst minutes you've ever seen as they choked the game away in the second half of the fourth quarter. So, I mean, that was a Golden State game was one where obviously you're going into a back-to-back. I think Golden State was on a back-to-back too, but it's like you're anticipating that the energy levels aren't going to be quite there. You're going to have to fight through and be a little bit resilient. And once again, this team is just outside of a couple of players who we love to highlight and we love to talk about their energy. And, Ryan Dunn, it's great to see him getting starts. And Josh Okogie, it's always good to see him back in the lineup because of the impact he has. But for the most part, these guys just aren't. they are struggling.
Yeah, and a really bad foul call late in that game against Bradley Beal too, against the Warriors. But yeah, I by the way, I'll just throw in the previous Nuggets loss, the one before Christmas. The Suns scored 90. So you're talking about the offense, like it just really has fallen off a cliff. And I know no Devin Booker, that obviously has impacted it a lot, but it shouldn't have this large of an impact. And I think going forward now, Royce O'Neal being out is going to hurt that as well. No Grayson Allen for the last few games, and then no Royce O'Neal going forward. It's been a while since those two guys have played a game together, and we're not going to get that anytime soon. Book could be back soon. Grayson could be back soon. It sounds like it could even be tomorrow's game. We're recording this on the 30th. Tomorrow's game against the Grizzlies. Sounds like they may be available for that game. Maybe not for Booker, but sounds like Grayson's they did do 5-on-5 in practice today.
Yeah, it's a big thing. You're waiting for them to progress through contact drills and then to 5-on-5 after that. And even if they're not available for tomorrow's game against the Grizzlies, which by the way, another really tough game. I don't know what people are expecting, what everyone's New Year's plans are for those of you who are listening to this in the first day that it's released. But personally, I'm going to be out with friends, and I already told you, Mike, I am going to watch that game on replay, whatever happens. Man. Not one that I need to sacrifice my New Year's Eve for like the Suns right now are just not appointment viewing. Even for us, we run this podcast, we love the team, we watch every game one way or another, but they're not appointment viewing in the same way that I would hope for. So yeah, the Grizzlies are going to be tough. Even if those guys aren't available for the Grizzlies game, we have all the way until Saturday before their next game after that, which is against the Pacers. So hopefully getting them back soon. But yeah, you're right. Also, Royce is yet another hit to the rotation.
Yeah, I had to watch the last few games on replay as well, and I don't know how you do it so much, Sam. Or how you had to do it
I complain about it.
Luckily, one of the times you did it a lot was the 64-win season, right? So you had a lot of stuff to look forward to in that season. But it really feels like homework. Like I'm not watching it for any other reason other than there's people that count on us to watch it, so I'm doing it for them and them only because I'm not enjoying it. I know the outcome of the game already. Like I do follow it when they happen. If I'm out doing stuff, I check the score a few times throughout the night, that kind of thing. I'll check Twitter, see how people are reacting and see how bad it's gotten. I watched the Nurkic fight as soon as it was posted on Twitter because I couldn't stay off my phone at that point. But getting through the actual game and just analyzing the basketball when it's this bad, it's tough.
Here's what tough. It is. I mean, yeah, I've complained about it before in the past, right? Like on this feed, especially when they blow a lead and it's coming, like in that Golden State game, that sucks. There's always stuff to look forward to, though, especially kind of as you're projecting forward. And this is where, we maybe shift to talking about just kind of how we feel more broadly speaking about the team right now. If your expectations right now of the 15-16 Phoenix Suns are still that they're anywhere remotely in a championship conversation, then yeah, you're going to be disappointed when you're watching these games on replay, right? Like the day after they've blown another game. If you're kind of watching and you're like, oh man, Ryan Dunn's doing some really interesting things, Oso's doing some really interesting things, you can find ways to talk yourself into it not being homework for me. But yeah, they are just not a championship contender, not even a championship pretender right now. Frankly, they're nowhere fucking near where they need to be or are supposed to be. And, I give it another 2 weeks before we maybe see some panic moves for this team.
It could be less, right? Because they're starting now, right? It's starting. We saw the Dennis Schroeder trade to the Golden State Warriors, and now a name that has been mentioned maybe on every podcast this year, Dorian Finney-Smith, was finally traded from the Brooklyn Nets to the Los Angeles Lakers for essentially 3 second-round picks. Yes, D'Angelo Russell was included in that trade, but he is an expiring contract and a player that is not part of the future of the Brooklyn Nets. So it was essentially a swap of salary for Dorian Finney-Smith and 3 second-round picks were included in that to trade for Dorian Finney-Smith. And look, not much for Dorian Finney-Smith, if we're being honest here. Like, a lot of the trades I think that we made up, fake trades for Dorian Finney-Smith, included more for him than what actually went down here. And the Los Angeles Lakers were able to snag him. Not, I think, as devastating as it could have been for me personally, who really wanted him on the Suns, because Gambo had already come out on Twitter and said that the Suns were not interested in Dorian Finney-Smith. I'm not sure why, if I'm being honest, because it seems a little odd to me.
Yeah, I mean, Gambo, 90% of the time you think you have a guy where it's like he's a good fit, and Gambo's going to kill the name anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much to read into that, but I do have a couple questions for you if we're going to hit on just the Dorian Finney-Smith trade
Sure.
reaction now. So, I mean, you kind of talked about it right there. 3 second-round picks. I think we were definitely expecting a first-round pick, and apparently there was a Memphis offer on the table of what would have been a heavily protected first-round pick that the Nets decided to forego. Who wins the trade? I mean, that's maybe a reductive, dumb way of looking at it, but like, do you have an initial reaction? For me,
yeah. I mean, D'Angelo Russell was a negative this year, so
this is a great trade for the Lakers. I honestly think it is, and I think you're exactly right. I am not even as much of a DFS fan as you, perhaps. I just think I've uttered his name a little bit less on the pod over the past year or two.
No, you're probably right. Yeah.
But I think, first of all, he is a positive. But the other thing, as much as DFS is a positive, D'Angelo Russell is a negative. And I'm just going to be honest when I say that, like, I'm going to be watching the Lakers closely over the next few weeks, not just to see how DFS fits in, but to see the extent to which not having D'Angelo Russell is a boon to them. And the reason I'm going to watch it, the reason I'm going to watch it closely.
I see where this is going.
Do you?
Yeah, I think so.
I know people don't want these guys to be in the same tier. But honestly, I get Bradley Beal vibes when I think about like what not having D'Angelo Russell could potentially do for the Lakers. Now, this might not be relevant at all because maybe the Lakers are going to continue to not stink. They're decent, but like, you know, just
their defense has a chance to be really good now.
I agree.
Like, DFS is a player that fits next to their two stars.
But also, Anthony Davis, as talented as he is not really a guy who can create off the dribble, and LeBron is 40 years old now officially, and you know maybe they're gonna struggle without D'Angelo Russell. I don't know for a fact that he's that it's such obvious addition by subtraction. It just kind of gives you those vibes, and it just makes me think about Bradley Beal a little bit. So that was the first thing. The second thing I wanted to ask you about that trade though is the fact that Finney-Smith goes for 3 second-round picks. Does that worry us about the Suns trade market, or I guess like the extent to which are you even thinking about kind of the Suns trade market as what if they end up being sellers? Like, what is Grayson Allen worth?
No.
What is Nurkic worth? Nothing, probably, right? Is the answer to that question. What would maybe even Tyus Jones be worth if they decide to flip, right? Have you thought about that part of it at all?
Okay, so we've breached the subject of blowing the entire team up on the podcast in the last few weeks, just from the idea of should they do it. I have zero inclination that they're going to, though. So I don't think that we are anywhere near that happening, I guess. So that makes me just sort of not really worried about that. From the perspective of if, say, Kevin Durant says, I'm done, I'm out of here. Then yeah, that would probably be bad. The market for players is not great for the teams that are trying to get rid of quote unquote good players right now. I think Durant is a different caliber of player.
I would hope so.
Yeah, so I mean, like obviously, I think that would be a little bit different.
I did see a very funny trade proposal for Kevin Durant online yesterday that I had to react to. I don't know if you saw that one. Our friend,
yes, it was horrible.
Our friend Josh Eberly, who I like.
Yeah,
I do like Josh. Puts out a lot of trade proposals, and he did do one between the Suns and the Pistons that was like Tobias Harris, Jaden Ivey, who's fine, but like not another. We don't need another undersized guard. And a single first round pick in 2027. That was like, if this is what Kevin Durant's value is in 2025, then we just gotta, I mean, Jesus Christ, I might have to jump off a bridge because there's no way that KD is like valued that poorly around the league. I would think if it comes to having to blow it up and whatever, I would hope you can get at least a few first round picks out of a talent like KD.
trade machines need to be like restricted. Only certain people should have access to those, I think, from now on. That's what I was thinking when I saw that. But, okay, I want to talk about the other side of that. And I want to get back to just blowing the team up in a second because I have some thoughts on that in general. Before, by the way, later in this episode, we're going to trade some stats back and forth. We do this every 10, 15 or so games every season. We're going to do that later. Not all stats of why the Suns are bad, but maybe some. But before we even get to that, I want to pair the Dorian Finney-Smith trade with a report from Mark Stein that said players like Valanciunas, Malcolm Brogdon, Kelly Olynyk, Bruce Brown, and Jordan Clarkson are expected to be available for second round compensation for those players. Now, three of those players the Suns are probably not interested in any way. That's Malcolm Brogdon. I don't see a reason the Suns would be interested in him. Bruce Brown, who would be awesome, don't get me wrong, on the Suns, but undersized and also makes too much money for most of the options for the Suns to trade. And then Jordan Clarkson, who's just not a good fit. We've talked about him in the past. We know why he's not a great fit for the Suns. But the other two guys are bigs. Honestly, would be an awesome starting / backup center rotation for the Suns and a massive upgrade for what they have right now, which is Valanciunas and Kelly Olynyk. There are trades available to get both of those guys for someone like Yusuf Nurkic. I think the question of second round compensation, does that include the fact that Yusuf Nurkic still has another year on his deal after this, and that makes it a little harder to trade someone like him who's not expiring? I'm not sure how that changes the calculation here, but it seems as though
Grayson
the
Allen
market
would also be in the proper salary tier to make something like this workable, correct?
If you trade Grayson for someone like Kelly Olynyk, for example, you expect to pick back. Honestly, you don't send that with a Kelly Olynyk. I love. Don't get me wrong.
I don't know what Grayson's value is at this point, man. I want to
just
say
think
you're
Kelly
right.
Olynyk barely played this year, and look, is still pretty good, but is older, and yeah, I think Grayson still fits on a good team. The Suns just haven't been one this year so far. But yeah, Valanciunas, Kelly Olynyk. There is a world where if the Suns are, first of all, trading second-round picks, which they have 3, sort of one of them's fake, but 3 second-round picks that they can trade, there's a world where they can get one of these players, a combination of salary on one of these players, right? But the other side of that is if the Suns are willing to put a first-round pick on the table, maybe the value for that first-round pick is actually higher than we realized if they are making the kind of trade that I expect them to make rather than blowing it up.
Don't trade a first-round pick for Jonas Valanciunas.
No, they shouldn't.
I'm sorry.
No.
Talk about, I think once we get to our stats, part of it is going to be kind of, for me, just spoiler alert, the center position for the Phoenix Suns this year. I'm going to talk about that. And so don't get me wrong, Valanciunas or Olynyk would be massive upgrades to what they currently are working with. Not enough of either one of them a needle mover to where you move a first-round pick for those guys, I don't think. And Kelly Olynyk, my God, the most James Jones big you've ever conceived of. That's kind of derogatory in the way I'm using it a little bit because I think there's a very particular type of big that James Jones just has a fetish for. And, I think sometimes those guys are good and sometimes they're not so good. But no doubt Kelly can move the ball and he can shoot the ball. He can shoot the ball substantially better than any of the guys we're currently working with. So, yeah, either one of them would be interesting at least.
I agree. And it's interesting to see where they're at, and I think the Suns playing so poorly lately, they can keep telling themselves once Devin Booker gets back, whatever, and maybe they'll be good at this point. Even
part of me, I just say, part of me is imagining Devin Booker being like, he goes to bed every night. I don't think Book is a very religious man, but he prays. He says, please give me a big who can catch an alley-oop. And then James Jones says, here's Kelly Olynyk or Jonas Valanciunas. It's just a little funny to think about.
Well, yeah. That is tough. One last thing I'll say, and then we can switch over to the stat conversation in just a second. But I just wanted to say, there's been rumors that the Suns were interested in Vucevic, which is at least interesting from the perspective of they couldn't get Vuce. This was from Dwayne Rankin. We mentioned it on a previous podcast. And, I was just thinking about that recently because how could you be Bradley Beal right now and think this is working? Right? don't you think that Bradley Beal knows that this isn't working at this point?
Yeah, I don't think he's a dumb guy.
There was a conversation we had
it.
in the past, right, where we're talking about a Jimmy Butler trade, which obviously, if that's available, you still potentially want to do that. Even from the perspective of if you re-sign Butler, he's still better value if you have to trade him later than Bradley Beal. But one of the challenges I think that we talked about with those trades is Beal wanting to go somewhere else. And I don't know that that's going to be a challenge right now. And I think that there is a button that you hit to blow up the team at a certain point that you may, those buttons that have like the cover over it to make sure you don't accidentally hit the button. You flip that cover up right now. Like you're ready to push that button right now. But before you do that, you got to get off this Beal contract. And this is just something that I wanted to mention because right now you do potentially have a world where you actually approach Beal and say, we're under 500 now. And honestly, when you play, the Suns have a -8 net rating. When you play right now, Bradley Beal. It's not working right now. Yep, maybe you're standing in the corner a little too much for what you're used to. Maybe you think there's a world where your size works better on a team that is not struggling as far as size goes and that kind of thing with Bradley Beal. Or honestly, maybe there's a team like I read that Ramona Shelburne report on the Kings. I don't know if you read that.
No, I didn't read that.
It's really good, first of all, but it's all about the firing of Mike Brown and everything that went there. And like I'm reading that report and it says that they looked into Brandon Ingram and they looked into Zach LaVine before they fired Mike Brown. And I'm like, isn't that interesting? We have a guy too that's kind of like those guys in Bradley Beal. Kings, are you interested in him? Like, is there a world where you're interested in him? And by the way, is there a world, Bradley Beal, where you're just willing to go there because it's not working here? The expectations are less?
So, Brad, the whole reason the Jimmy thing is viable, going back to that for a second, is because Brad had expressed potentially interest in playing in Miami in the past. Right?
And that, by the way, that's happened with Kings before as well. Some level of interest has been mentioned in the past as well.
With Brad?
Yeah.
For him going to Sacramento? Really?
Yeah.
I must have missed that because that was going to be my whole point. Is look,
Pre-Suns, obviously.
I could see, but I could see him go to Miami. I could see him go to Chicago if you want to talk about Vooch. Chicago's a great city. Sacramento? Really? It surprises me. That's all.
All I'm saying is there's at least two other good players there where he's not competing and playing the exact same position as them. You know what I mean? Like if he's paired with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, it's not as bad of a fit as the Suns currently are. Honestly, they're not even a worse team right now. They're basically exactly the same.
I know,
you know what I mean? So I guess what I mean is for Bradley Beal, if we're talking about trading Bradley Beal, right now may be the window where the most teams are available for him if you approach him and say, do you want to talk about moving to a different team right now and trying to find you a better fit in this world? And that's where DJ Matty Tellum gets on the ones and twos and tries to get Vucevic here somehow, or some version. Like I was thinking when I read the report about Bruce Brown for second round picks, I'm like, is there a world where the Suns could get Bruce Brown and Vucevic somehow on this team right now?
Beal?
I'm not saying they can.
Beal? There's
no second round picks. Second round picks for Bruce Brown. Okay, put
if Matty Tellum turns Bradley
in
Beal into Vooch and Bruce Brown, then erect the statue right now.
These are like Vooch is a player they're desperate to trade.
I know
I really don't think it's going to take much.
He's not that good, but Brad is terrible this year. He's really bad.
All I'm saying is blow up the team later if it continues to not work. But first, if you have a window where you could trade Beal, because if you blow up the team before trading Beal, you might be stuck. You might just be stuck with Beal
or whatever. I mean, he'll be your tank commander, except you won't have picks.
Yeah, that sounds awful, honestly. That sounds awful.
There are a lot of paths forward for this team that sound awful, Mike. I don't know. At a certain point, we might just have to put our heads down and soldier on as God's strongest soldiers, as we know we are. I mean, look, I think they should explore all possible avenues. I just some of those concepts seem a little far-fetched to me, but I certainly hope you're right.
Of course.
I hope you're right.
All right, let's talk about some stats. We do this often. Longtime listeners of the podcast know this. Sam and I separately looked up some stats. We're going to trade those stats back and forth. We have not talked to each other about these stats, so we're going to be hearing them for the first time on the podcast right now. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first? Some of these are going to be depressing. Just a warning.
Sure. It's a depressing time of year for the holidays.
Revel in it. Enjoy it. Yeah.
I'll go first. My first stat isn't really a stat as much as it's a history lesson. I want to talk about kind of the validity or non-validity of hitting the reset button, blowing it up, as we talk about, by relating it to history. NBA history, because we all know Matt Ishbia's expectation for this team is, at least theoretically, win a championship. It's all of our expectations too, or at least how the season kind of started. And that kind of naturally begs the question. I was considering to myself, what are the greatest turnarounds of all time, right? What are the greatest second half season turnarounds? Do you have any, before I go into this, do you have any kind of that come to mind for you? Of teams that sort of just started off in a really dark place and became championship contenders.
I don't remember. Part of me remembers there was a Miami Heat run.
Yes, that was the first team I thought of.
2021 maybe. That's further back than I remembered.
Okay, the 2021 Heat team was a different team that you might be referring to. Let me just check on that one real quick. But the one I always think of is the 2016 Miami Heat that actually didn't even make the playoffs. But they started out the season 11-30, and then they finished the season 30-11.
Yes, that's right. I remember that team too. Yes,
Spoelstra got Coach of the Year votes, and it was like, holy shit, what are the Heat doing? And Goran Dragic was playing out of his mind. And so I do think about that team. I didn't include them in this greater list because, like I said, they didn't make the playoffs. As I looked through this, okay, so here's the thing. First of all, first team I thought of, last year's Dallas Mavericks. Last year's Dallas Mavericks are the idea of, well, what if we just struggle through 50 games and we just land a perfect trade, and that's the PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford trades. They made two trades separately. They get Grant Williams off the team. They go on a run to the finals, right? That's the idea of bring in Valanciunas or Nick Richards or whoever, and it's all going to be okay. The slight worrisome thing about that bit of logic is that at their worst last season, the Dallas Mavericks were 26-23. That was their absolute worst. Mm-hmm. They never dipped below 500 like the Suns currently are. So that's something to think about with the Mavs.
Yeah. Yep.
They did make a great second half season comeback. They did. But they were never quite as bad as we are right now. An example of a team that was as bad, in fact, far worse than we are right now, the 1976 Phoenix Suns. And I'm curious if anyone listening, whether they're people who like history or more old timers, actually were thinking of this team, because when I saw it, it became obvious to me. I knew this in the back of my mind, but the 1976 Phoenix Suns that went to the finals against the Boston Celtics, they lost, but there was Gar Heard's shot, around the world and all that other stuff that happened. Paul Westphal, rookie Alvin Adams leading that team. They were 19-27 entering the All-Star break. 19-27.
That's rough.
Much worse than 15-16. Maybe
how many teams were in the league back then?
In
I actually have no idea.
Well, that's a great point. Is that that was 50 years ago, and it's hard to find modern examples of this. How many teams were in the league back then? I would guess 18, 20.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pull it up for you.
It's interesting. That's really interesting. It's funny that it's the Suns. Of course, it's the Suns. By the way, it's just a weird coincidence.
The Suns have had a really. Why does this not say how many teams there are? 18. There were 18 teams in the league back then.
Different calculus when making the playoffs. In that case, yeah,
different era for sure. Back when divisions ruled everything and not conferences. So that's important to think about too. Divisions actually mattered. This was pre 3-point line. It was a long time ago. If you actually want an example of a team, because that Suns team lost in the finals, right? We're trying to win the finals. The most recent example, I think, of a team that was bad at this point in the season that won the finals is basically from the same era. The 1978 Washington Bullets entered the All-Star break 26-23. They finished the season only 44-38. But again, never under 500. That team was never under 500. They did win the NBA Finals. I also thought that it would be funny to ask you if you can name a single player from the 1978 Washington Bullets.
No, I don't
because
think I
it's from an era of NBA history that I think is very often, kind of pre-Magic, pre-Bird, forgotten to people. Kind of like this current era in an interesting way in that there was so much parity. A different team was winning every year. Elvin Hayes, ring a bell?
Yes.
Elvin Hayes, Hall of Famer, leading scorer on that team. Bob Dandridge was the second leading scorer on that team. Mitch Kupchak, perhaps rings a bell to you. Of course, the former GM of the Los Angeles Lakers and the Charlotte Hornets, just stepped down for the Charlotte Hornets this past season. He was the third leading scorer on that team. Again, 44-38, not a great team, but they won the championship. More modern example, the 2006 Miami Heat. Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal, old-ass Shaquille O'Neal, who thought he still deserved MVP over Steve Nash as like a 32-year-old in Miami. 19-15 in the first week of January. I point out that is still significantly better than 15-16, but at one point in the season they were 19-15, and they are probably the most modern example that I could come up with of a team that actually won the championship that was kind of struggling at this point in the season. All of this is to say, I think you can kind of go your own way with it, and like it's open to interpretation. For me, what it says is that they need a miracle, and that like they need arguably one of the biggest miracles in NBA history to turn this thing around. Not that it's literally impossible, because there are a couple of examples that you can pick out, but even these examples that we're picking out, like the Mavs last year, the 2006 Heat, these are teams that never fell below 500, and the Suns are currently below 500. That puts them in special territory for making this difficult.
It's, teams can improve, right, in the regular season. Like, that's obviously something that can happen. They can start one way and then finish the season another, and you hope that your team does that every year, even if they start well. It is a weird time in the Western Conference, just as you're stating, because, like, the Suns are 3 games back of the 6th seed. They can get in. They're really only, 6 games back of the 2nd seed right now. And look, that's a lot to make up ground. Don't get me wrong. But it is kind of all jumbled together still in the Western Conference, basically from the Lakers to the Suns. Yeah, no one can throw the Kings into it, basically, but there's 6 games under 500 right now. So
no one's catching the Thunder, but that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so they can still make the playoffs. They can still have a season where they're in there, but to be the team that we all expected them to be or wanted them to be this season, I don't know. It's tough to envision a scenario where that happens. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They're really not doing great so far this season. And in fact, I'll just tell you one of my stats right here, since we're on just how poorly they've been playing so far. Let me bring up. I have a couple that really dictate that. But let's say since starting 8-1, so they started 8-1. It feels like 10 years ago at this point. The Suns are 7-15 since then, right? Quick maths on that one. 15-16 record. And in that time, they had the 23rd overall net rating of a minus 3.8 and a 113.2 offense and a 117 defense as far as offensive and defensive rating in that time. That's a worse net rating than the historically bad Detroit Pistons last year. In fact, the Chicago Bulls, a team that we talked about, Bradley Beal potentially going to, is higher than that. Philadelphia 76ers, a team that struggled mightily this season during that time, was still better than the Phoenix Suns. The San Antonio Spurs, who are just above the Suns in the standings, have a significantly better net rating in that time. Shout out Chris Paul. And even the Sacramento Kings, who are under the Suns. Sacramento Kings a weird season overall.
They've blown
their net rating and their record do not really match up.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason they fired their coach. But,
they're the anti-Lakers, too, by the way, if you look at that, because the Lakers have a terrible net rating, kind of like the Suns, and yet they're a few games over 500 because they pulled out some really close ones.
Yeah. And it's one of those stats that just shows how poor they've been playing. But you mentioned it earlier, and this is really to help put a stamp on that too. The 113 offensive rating in that time, I think, is just brutal. It's brutal to look at that, because that in the NBA, it's not good enough. It's just not good enough for a team like this. And don't get me wrong, like, that's not a terrible offensive rating. But if you're going to have a 117 defensive rating, it's not going to get it done. You really have to kill teams offensively if you're going to play small, and that means hitting a ton of threes. And look, they're shooting them, and they're actually hitting them at a pretty high rate, but it's just not there with what the Suns are trying to do.
I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, if we talk about the offense, because my next stat is really going to be offense-centric. I want to talk about the center position, and I think this is kind of this interesting, perplexing idea. I apologize that I don't know where I saw this, but I saw this stat just today that takes, like, the concept of the 4 factors, the advanced factors. It's like the team that shoots more threes, the team that gets more free throws, the team that rebounds better, and what's the fourth one? I think the team that turns it over less, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just tracking, like, okay, these are the 4 these are someone at some point decided that this is what decides if you win or lose a game, but what are the actual chances? Some of these give you a better chance. Like, if you out rebound a team, what this chart was saying, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it was like, if you out rebound a team this year, maybe you win 55% of the time. So it's like a little predictive. Mm-hmm. If you just take more threes than the other team, you win 70% of the time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I think, like, if I'm Adam Silver, that's a major problem stat that I'm actually looking at and saying that's taking a lot of strategy out of the game, actually, and maybe, we need to bring that stat down. But
yeah, maybe, yeah.
That being said, the Suns are taking more threes this year. They're shooting well. They take a lot of above the break threes, a lot of corner threes. I pointed this out on a previous podcast, and they're one of the best corner 3-point shooting teams in the league too.
Yeah.
So why
Nurkic, by the way, may be allowed to shoot corner threes now. It seems like that's coming back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why do they still suck? They suck because they get absolutely nothing from the center position. And we've pointed out Nurkic in the past, so I don't need to beat a dead horse. But, he's suspended for 3 games right now. Something that's really been frustrating to watch over the past couple of weeks that I can't really keep my tongue tied about it anymore is just that Mason Plumlee's given us nothing. I think he started out the season better than Drew Eubanks. But right now, he doesn't look at the rim.
He's a better defender than Drew Eubanks.
He is.
Yeah, but I think you could say at this point that he's a worse offensive player, yeah.
Mason, and, I understand he's a veteran minimum player. He's old. He's battled back through some injuries and has had to persevere in his own right. But he's down to a career low scoring average per 36 minutes. He's at 8.4 points per 36. Last season was at 13. The season before was at 15. He was never a go-to, dominate the pick and roll style threat. But this is a guy who should be benefiting from the gravity, the constant double teams that guys like Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, when they are healthy, are drawing. And instead, he catches the ball in the middle of the floor, and he just has no faith that he can
Turns
score.
It over half the time,
has
too.
No faith.
Yeah.
And so here's what I wanted to look at. This is not advanced analytics. This is a very basic stat. It's points per game from various teams' starting and backup center duos. Just the, I know.
Fantastic.
Did you pull this too?
No, I was just about to say the Suns may have the worst starting and backup center rotation in the league, but I had nothing to back it up, so I'm glad you did this
I did not pull all 30 teams, so I don't know what it says for all 30 teams. I just pointed out a few choice teams that are good.
Perfect.
And here's the thing. I did not include, because very intentionally, there are teams that build out their attack around their center. I did not look at the Denver Nuggets for this stat. I did not look at...
You don't need the Denver Nuggets. You don't need the Lakers.
You don't need the Lakers. You don't need the Sixers. You don't need the Knicks with Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's too high of a bar for Nurkic and Plumlee to live up to, right? But here's a bar that Nurkic and Plumlee should be able to live up to, and they're not. So Nurkic and Plumlee combined for 12.8 points per game this year. 12.8 as their first and second guys. The Orlando Magic. Mo Wagner plus Goga Batadze, 22.5 points.
That's such a big difference.
Those are two guys who are not very good, and they're doubling
Yes.
up what our centers are doing.
Yeah.
Dallas Mavericks, Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, 20.9 points.
Yeah.
Memphis Grizzlies, this is the craziest one. Zach Edey and Jay Huff, 20.5 points.
Mm-hmm.
And we get less than 13.
That's a rookie and a undrafted player.
That's a rookie and someone who nobody knew who the fuck he was last year, and they almost score twice as much as our starting and backup center do, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to demonstrate to everyone the extent to which our centers give us nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're giving us absolutely nothing. And Oso, I love him to death, but also has a problem with not really looking at the rim. He's got the floater, but this is the part of me that wants to cling on to hope that, hey, maybe if you brought in Kelly Olynyk or Valanciunas or just anyone who can kind of look at the rim a little bit, maybe that would go a long way towards fixing what the offensive woes are with this team. I still don't think it's enough of a needle mover to really put them in championship contending conversation.
Yeah, but they'd be watchable.
But they would be watchable.
I wouldn't have to slog through the games.
I just wanted to lay this out to people.
It's a quality of life trade, is what it would be. Just improves your life overall. Yeah, that's really bad. That's good stuff, though. I appreciate you pulling that because that's just a really interesting look at just how bad it's been this year. As far as the teams that are supposed to be good, the Suns without a doubt have the worst center rotation. And look, as much as people want to say it's always been that bad with Nurkic, no, it's another level of bad this year. I'll keep saying that because it is so much worse than last year so far. And I don't blame Bud for that. I think, some people want to point the finger that way at times. I don't blame Bud for that. I think Nurkic just doesn't really have it anymore. And that's just is what it is right now for him. So I do have one stat that's slightly related to the 4 factors thing you were talking about. The Suns are 11-3 when not turning it over more than their opponent. So when they either have the exact same number of turnovers than their opponent or less, they're 11-3.
It's a good stat.
And look, the rebounds, it's not as correlated because I looked at rebounds, offensive rebounds, total rebounds, and then I looked at turnovers.
What I've learned from looking more closely at 4 factors over the past day is that if rebounding mattered, like Andre Drummond would be the greatest player, player of all time. DeAndre Ayton would still matter in the NBA. Rebounding, unfortunately, it does matter in certain contexts. But I
think 3-point shooting has changed that equation because the rebounds are different.
Totally, absolutely. I think guard rebounds are, if you can lock down a guy who's a guard and scraps for long rebounds, like you have a Josh Okogie on the team somewhere.
Josh Hart.
You have Josh Hart. That's exactly who I was going to go to next. You still need a traditional center to hold it down as a defensive rebounding team. But the entire context of your roster shouldn't be built around rebounding as a primary skill. That's not a strategy for success.
But holding on to the ball seems pretty important. And I think it's particularly important for the Suns in that when they had Chris Paul on their team, they had literally their greatest season ever when it comes to regular season wins, not to mention making it to the NBA Finals. Durant is the biggest offender here, without a doubt. Multiple games with just really, really bad turnovers in the last few. The Mavs game had some really embarrassing ones, I think, for Durant. It's a combination of getting stripped when he's dribbling and just making... I think he sees a lot of times the right... the guy's cutting to the right spot and just doesn't make the pass. The pass doesn't get there. And it gets picked off on the way. So he sees the right basketball move. It just doesn't put the ball in the right place, I think, which is a problem for him because it's you need to be less confident in that pass, to be honest. And we've talked about it with him in the past. It's almost better when those are shot attempts from him than when those are passes. He just needs to shoot when he touches the ball a little bit more. There are other guys that I think have turnover problems, but the other main guys on the team that handle the ball and actually make plays for other players, and Tyus and Devin Booker, are not a problem this year. They're both doing a really good job holding on to the ball, making plays for other players, and keeping their turnovers relatively low. Brad can be a pretty bad offender, particularly in like clutch game scenarios where he doesn't make the smartest decisions with the ball overall. I think
he loses all ability in the last 5 minutes. So
yeah,
he's the anti Chris Paul, man. I mean, jeez. Can we just say it? Like,
yeah,
it's like the worst decision every time. I somewhat enjoy watching Bradley Beal play in the first 3 quarters of a basketball game.
Yeah.
But something happens to him in the fourth quarter in high leverage situations where he has to become a lead ball handler. And I just don't know what it is. This is why if he's under the impression that he's spending too much time in the corner and that the answer for him is to go back to being what he was in Washington or whatever on some other team, that's a little delusional to me, just based on what we're seeing the team look like when he is the lead ball handler this year.
I think there's 2 ways to flip this stat in the Suns' favor. 1, turn the ball over less. 2, create more turnovers for the other team.
Yeah.
And I think that we are at the point, at least with Durant, where the first part's not going to... You can't turn the ball over less with him. It's just there's just going to be a few games a year where he had 7 or 8. And that's just going to happen. Maybe in the playoffs that happens a few times as well. So on the other side of that, if they find ways, and I'm not saying they can, but if they find ways to turn the other team over a little bit more, and we've talked about it before, playing Ryan Dunn more, playing Josh Okogie more.
This is my next
making
stat.
Trades for some longer players and actually turning the other team over more. That, I think, would help them win that turnover battle. And, of course, there's other ways to win the possession battle, too. Offensive rebounds is one of them. But I think really finding ways to get more deflections and take the ball from the other team, maybe some more blocks if they have a good center rotation, that could really, really help them out. But yeah, that's where they are. 11-3. I'll say they have 14. What do they have? 15 wins, and 11 of them come when they win the turnover battle, or at least play it to a standstill. Which 2 of those wins are from just equal turnovers.
I mean, because they're an efficient offensive team. This is what we've seen all season long, right? Like they shoot threes well, they shoot twos well, even like compared to your average team. They're not the best in the league or anything. They also shoot free throws well when they actually get there. But how many times, if you're just box score watching, do you open up the box score and it's like, oh, the Suns shot 50, 40, 90 tonight, and they took 20
and lost.
They took 20 fewer shots than the other team.
Yeah.
So they don't have a chance, right? Like it just comes down to turnovers and a little bit of rebounding too. But I want to talk about that. One way you can create turnovers, play Ryan Dunn and Josh Okogie.
Yeah.
This is a mixed stat. So it's I think it's mostly positive, but also a little negative in a funny way. I was desperately looking, now that I've figured out how to get the NBA Wowie combinations on playbyplaystats.com,
Yeah.
which I didn't know how to do.
I stared at those for a while, yeah.
I've been desperately trying, because this is what being a coach is too, right? Like when everyone complains about rotations, it's just you have a certain number of levers, and every player that you can insert into any context is going to give you some things and he's going to take other things away. And pulling the exact right combination of levers is like playing whack-a-mole, where you're desperately trying to find something. And so as I was trying to find something, here's what I found. Ryan Dunn in minutes without Josh. First of all, the Suns are what, like a -2, -3 overall net rating this year? -2,
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
something like that. So I'm just looking for anything positive is good. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, like you can't find positive net ratings with those guys in combinations right now. There are obviously lineups where they're good, but just when it's like 2 of the 3 of them or all 3 together, it's not very good. Ryan Dunn without Josh Okogie, +2. That's a win. That's a win.
Yeah.
Josh Okogie without Ryan Dunn, +5. Huge success. Big success for this team. For this team, you take that right now. +5 net rating. Both now notice it's when only one of them plays, because both of these, by the way, are sample sizes of like a few hundred minutes, right? They're decent sample sizes. The funny part is, and this I think is heavily skewed from the last few games where we've actually seen this a few times, when Ryan Dunn and Josh Okogie play together, which has happened in 70 minutes this season.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that Bud has tried to do with good intentions, to be like, let's just turn them over. Let's get those turnovers. When both of them play together, -28, and the team collectively in those minutes shoots 21% from 3.
Yeah, well, Yeah. Right.
So
the ball's gonna land in one of their hands,
right,
because
and
you're just not guarding him.
that's a situation where it's like, okay, now KD, like, what's he supposed to do? You know, like maybe he's turning the ball over, but like, who does he have to pass it to at that point? I think basically always, and this is going to be interesting to watch now that Royce might miss some extended time. Basically, always having one of Dunn or Okogie on the floor. You mentioned recently is at the very least a way to make the team watchable and fun.
Yeah.
And
now it's only one. It sounds like, yeah.
well, and I think statistically you're getting some evidence that is a way to make them a little bit better. You know, positive net ratings this season when only one of them played. When both of them play, unfortunately, it just takes it saps too much air out of your offense at that point to where it's hard to like rise above it. But in theory, there's a reason you keep these guys on the roster. They're massively important for morale. For kind of fan interest, and you know, to a certain extent, success too.
I have some stats that add to that combination here with one of my stats, and I'll start it this way. Only one lineup out of the top 6 lineups in minutes played. So the 6 most played lineups for the Suns, only one has a positive net rating. And here's some propaganda for you that I think you're going to like. It's the starters, that means Tyus is playing, without Bradley Beal and with Royce O'Neal in. And that is a plus 30.5 net rating for the Suns.
Yeah.
Extremely, extremely good.
This is why, you know, I can't help but wonder what I said earlier this hour about the D'Lo effect. If the Suns end up, I don't think it's likely, but if the Suns end up salary dumping Bradley Beal, and you know, in the next 2 weeks,
that's the Ewing theory, right?
It literally
the classic Bill Simmons.
Well, Ewing was good.
Yeah, but they traded him and they got better.
I know.
Right?
Brad's
that's the idea.
but Ewing was good. Brad is
but
not.
Maybe
good
he
this
wasn't.
year.
I don't know. We weren't around. Maybe we would have been podcasting in 1998 talking about how Ewing actually secretly sucks. You know, maybe that would have been us. Who knows?
If the Suns salary dump Bradley Beal and get like Valanciunas in the next 2 weeks, then maybe they are a contender. That's my little bit of hopium for this episode. It's like maybe that would make
Vucevic. Yeah. Okay, here's another one for you, adding to that. The 7th most played lineup, the next one that has a positive net rating, is the starters minus Booker plus Ryan Dunn. So still Tyus in it. But to me, it just shows that the three guards playing together continues to not work for this team, and they need to make a change to that starting line. But maybe it just is getting rid of Beal, getting rid of Beal entirely. Maybe it's trying to move him to the bench. I don't know. Maybe it's Tyus moving to the bench. We talked about it before, and I don't like the idea of Tyus moving to the bench. I've just liked him more than I've liked Beal so far this season. So it's tough for me to ask for that.
Look, one thing I will say.
One last propaganda step for that for you.
Sure.
Durant, Booker with no Beal plus Ryan Dunn are plus 23 net rating. Now they've only played 48 minutes in that scenario. But,
Interesting. That's
so no Beal, little. So Durant, Booker, and Ryan Dunn, extremely good so far this season. A lot of those, like you're calling the NBA Wowie stats, the lineup combinations, like they're so based
noisy.
On the situation that they were playing in.
Exactly, yeah.
And 48 minutes could be stretched out over, all 30 of the games, or the ones where all
that
three
could be
of them played.
that could be 48 minutes against the Jazz and Pistons. I don't know. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's really tough to look at those and draw any conclusions from it. But they just can't continue to play these lineups that just bury them. And maybe to your point, just putting a active center who's capable of finishing and capable of potentially scoring from even outside of the paint could solve a lot of those problems with the starting lineup. But right now, regardless, it's not working.
I will say another thing, because I am sensing, a little bit of myself, this sort of being heavy-handed in my critique of Brad today, because I've been really frustrated this week. It's been hard.
I think it was fascinating, too, because he's actually scored really well.
Yeah.
In 4 out of the last 5 games, he had an embarrassing game against Dallas. But it is so funny to look.
That's
at his last 5 games on Basketball Reference and see the scoring, and let me just bring it up.
He's
here,
that was my next stat, but I wasn't
Okay,
even.
perfect.
I wasn't even going to bring
ahead.
it up because I was going to say I think it's being heavy-handed. He scores 25 points and is a minus 15 in every game. Basically, that's what it is.
Because he's in his last games. I'll just read the scoring: 26 points, 23 points, 27 points, 11 points, and 28 points. So in most of those games, he had 23 points or more. And here's the plus minus in those games: minus 15, minus 18, plus 12, minus 13, minus 10. They're getting demolished with him on the scoring points, which, by the way,
including in a couple of
has been his whole career.
Well, I mean, he was yeah, I guess. Right, but like in games against Dallas, which they only lost by 9, or against Golden State, which they only lost by 4, that meant that when Brad was off the floor, they were actually positive in those minutes because he was like a minus 15 in those 2 games. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't want to criticize Brad anymore just because I want to say the one thing of throwing him a bone. You don't make that trade, or you don't approach. It would be silly to approach Brad and say, hey, this isn't working. Do you want us to find you a new home? Before you've at least exhausted other options, such as either moving him to the bench, or maybe he's obviously not going to be happy with that, moving Tyus to the bench.
Yeah, because that's the door, right? That's the door that opens for that conversation.
I don't even
we're thinking about putting you on the bench. Would you rather play for a different team?
So that could be this, right, but hear me out. That could be the second thing. I have expressed in a previous episode, I don't want to bench Tyus, and yet even I would bench Tyus for 2 games because I figure he'd be fine with it. Just to see. Bench Tyus for 2 games. Brad is the point guard or whatever you want to call it. Ryan Dunn is in the starting lineup. And if that still sucks too, all right, buddy, get the fuck out. I mean, you're out of excuses at that point. I would at least try it. You gotta try something different.
I have one more stat. Do you have any more?
No, that'll be it.
You want a fun one, an actual good one?
Let's do a fun one.
Besides the 11-3 turnover stat, which is actually still good. It's just they turn it over a lot, so it's not that good. There are 76 players shooting at least as much three-pointers per game as Royce O'Neal. 76 players total shooting at least 5.7 three-pointers per game so far this season. A large amount of players, obviously. Royce O'Neal is currently 5th in three-point percentage of all of those players. Royce O'Neal has been so freaking good on the Suns so far this season. I think in a way that Grayson Allen was last year. I think maybe we spent more time talking about the Grayson Allen thing last year because he was traded to the Suns at that point, and it was like the first time we're seeing a lot of it. But Royce O'Neal has just been extremely, extremely good at shooting the ball so far this season, and really, honestly, at everything. He's put in position to guard guys that are a little too big, and that does impact his play overall sometimes, but being 44% from 3 on 5.7 attempts per game is really freaking good. Like, really, really good. And he deserves a lot of credit for that. Can I read you, though? I'll go top 10 in three-point percentage so far this year. Can I read you the guys who are shooting at volume?
Yeah.
Number 1, and this is crazy, Norman Powell, who's shooting 8 three-pointers per game and shooting 46% on those threes.
Yeah.
Insane.
Don't know what happened. Him. Yeah, don't know what happened there.
He's Steph Curry right now. He's Steph Curry. Crazy.
Part of me wants to say like that's just like a class. Is Norm Powell in a contract here, by the way? That would be the first thing I would think about.
He might be, yeah.
Pull it. He is not. He has one more year next season.
Crazy.
At $20.4 million. Just an absolute.
They're treating him like a star, though, right? They're running plays for him, and he's hitting off ball, on ball, insane 3-pointers. Here's a crazy one though. Number 2 in the entire NBA, 6.1 3-pointers attempted per game. DeAndre Hunter, shooting 45%.
That is weird.
I haven't watched a ton of the Hawks, but man, that's really good. And then it gets a little less interesting. Zach LaVine, Kyrie Irving. Then we have Royce O'Neal, Darius Garland. And then Cameron Johnson, shout out Cameron Johnson, yep. Shooting 7.5 3-pointers attempted per game, which we always wanted him to do here. And he's doing a really good job at it, 43% essentially.
19 points per game for Cam too. Obviously, so much opportunity is opened up for him in Brooklyn. It's a team that is not really trying to compete, and then they traded Schroeder on top of that. But I think it's good to see another example like with Bridges of a guy who we watched him come up here. We questioned at times if he really had like the confidence to score more, and it looks like he can. So that's fun.
Boy, would he be awesome on the Suns now. No way to get him, but man. Peyton Pritchard, Malik Beasley, Donovan Mitchell round out the top 10, and then number 11 overall is Kevin Durant, by the way. Just going to put him in there.
How many, attempts, I'm sure he doesn't take 5 3-point attempts a game, but Jokic is so crazy this season, right? Like every time.
Yeah.
Okay, I just looked it up. Man, Jokic is taking 4.5 threes a game at 50%.
That's crazy. Yeah, 50%. That's crazy. He should shoot more, probably. It's just he's good at everything else too. So good luck figuring out what he should do more of. But yeah, I Royce O'Neal, who's hurt right now, by the way, had a pretty nasty looking ankle sprain, we'll call it, in the last game, and didn't practice today, and probably is going to miss at least a week or a few weeks, is what I would guess. We haven't heard anything about that. I think Budenholzer said today that the imaging was as good as it could be for a sprain that looked like that. So not fractured, not broken, nothing torn, I would guess, based on that report. But I'm guessing we're going to miss Royce O'Neal for a few weeks, but he's been really, really, really good on the Suns this season. Really, any lineup he's in looks good. Like it pops when you look at the lineup stats for the Suns.
Yeah, a good guy to feel, just easy to feel good about having that guy signed to a long-term contract. 3 more years. What are the Suns going to look like within the next 3 years? We have no idea. But you're just pretty confident that Royce, in any kind of iteration of them, could be a solid piece.
Yep. And that's all the official stats I have for the Suns. One quick stat to throw at you, though. LeBron James is 40.
Yep.
Technically that's a stat. He's 40 years old. Just a very long time of this man being in our lives, Sam. Basically, since you were a small child, LeBron James has been in all NBA teams your entire life. But it's just cool watching all the LeBron content that's out today. We're recording this on his actual birthday. He's been awesome for a very long time. Tough, I think, to be a true fan of basketball and the NBA without appreciating LeBron. And it was a fun day for me to watch a lot of content about LeBron today.
Yeah, I remember back when I was 6 or 7 years old, just getting into the NBA, and my first entrance to the NBA arguably wasn't even. I was watching games, I guess, like as they were coming on national TV, but it's like as LeBron was entering the league, collecting the Sports Illustrated covers, and stuff like that was kind of my entrance to basketball in a way. And we are just so far removed from that world now, and he's still here. He's still here, and he's still playing pretty well. So
I'm older than you, obviously, but LeBron James. Highlights of LeBron James are pre-YouTube, like before YouTube existed, and that's sort of the way to think about it. I think YouTube was 2005. I remember like finding highlights of LeBron James in high school because of the hype on like CD websites online, because you couldn't just look up a video on YouTube or TikTok and find highlights of somebody like LeBron. You just have to go watch clips. Like I was watching clips of him scoring like from Tim Duncan to Wembanyama. Like just his entire career has spanned. Chris Webber. There's clips of LeBron James scoring on Chris Webber. If you want to go back and see Reggie Miller, he scored on Reggie Miller.
Yeah.
And now he's scoring on Wembanyama. It's just insane to think about his career spanning.
I'm just trying to think
that
about
long.
So when did YouTube come out? 05, 06? Something like that? I want to say.
2005, I think.
The early, as early as like 2007, I was probably watching, like Sean Marion highlights in 144 pixels on YouTube. That was like the environment back then, what we were dealing with. And LeBron's been there since the very beginning. Absolutely remarkable.
Quick New Year's resolution for the Suns before we go.
Sure. What do you got?
Trade Brad? Is that too much to ask?
Oh, man. I was going to give... What's your resolution for you? How about not the Suns?
I don't really do resolutions. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't really have one.
Mine is to find joy in every game. We're going to be there for every game, okay? Let's find a little bit of joy.
I like that.
No matter what happens.
Shout out Ryan Dunn.
There always has to be something in every game.
Yeah.
Right?
What do we have? Like 40 days, less than 40 days until the trade deadline. We'll see.
Yes, sir.
What the team looks like after that, but things are really
You know what's
plummeting
interesting?
fast for this team.
We have not even had an all-star conversation yet, have we?
Maybe the Suns don't have one. Yeah. I mean, they don't really deserve one if their current standings, right?
KD's still going to be an all-star, right? Has he played enough games?
I think he's been good enough to be an all-star this season.
At some point, we don't have time for it today, but at some point, we got to talk about the new all-star format. I don't think we ever touched on that, too. I actually think it's really kind of interesting.
Yeah,
with the multiple teams and playing to like first to 40 points.
KD hated it.
Doing round robin. I don't care what KD thinks.
Maybe Adam Silver's going to make sure KD's not there.
Okay, here's my quick take on it. So for anyone
is that
who
our new
doesn't know,
conspiracy theory? Adam Silver's punishing the Suns because KD doesn't like the All-Star format.
No, because I think there's a lot of players. There's a lot of players who don't like the All-Star format. But for anyone who doesn't know, this year the All-Star format is they're splitting the 24 All-Stars into 3 teams of 8 guys each. And then the 4th team that's going to participate in a little round-robin style tournament is the winners from, I guess, the Rising Stars game. I don't know if it's still rookie, sophomore, or if it's Rising Stars again, right? They've gone back and forth.
Yes, I think so.
But so the winner of the Rising Stars game is going to be there as well as the 4th team. And I think that's really intriguing, whoever they play, because maybe they get their ass kicked like 40-11, or maybe they turn it on for like just 3 or 4 minutes and make a bunch of threes, and all of a sudden they like really are pretty close to embarrassing a bunch of NBA All-Stars. Which, like, how do you get NBA All-Stars to try? Embarrass them on national TV. Yeah. I think threaten them with that potential punishment is a really intriguing idea. So I'm kind of excited for it. But will the Suns have a guy there? I think that just depends on KD, really. I would like to say that Book can wedge his way in there.
It might just be Ryan Dunn on the Rising Stars team.
Don't think it's going to happen this year. Man, is Ryan Dunn even... I hope he's there.
I think they probably... if they're trying to put together a team, they might actually put him on there. So we'll see. Because he's a guy that does a lot of that. He's good on any team. He plays a lot of defense. But anyway, everyone have a safe, happy, and healthy new year. We appreciate you all this year. You have about 20 more hours to sign up for our Patreon. 80% off if you use the code OhSoGood on our Patreon. No spaces in that, but we appreciate you all, and we'll be back. Yeah,
you won't even believe what our January promo code is going to be. Hashtag Beal so bad.
Hashtag blow it up. Yeah. All right, appreciate everyone. Have a great new year.